My name is Alan Perry. I'm the Australian Director of CCUSA. And on the line, we are so excited on the Zoom call. We're very excited to have Caleb, who is the from Aspen, our Talent Acquisition Manager or HR Director. Welcome, mate, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Noe. Good to be here. I like the giant American flag in the background. Not as good as my giant Burton poster, but close.
It looks good. All good. Well, look, we want to welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us. We've got about 30 minutes, so we're going to try and smash out as many questions and give you enough information to sort of work out what's right for you and if this program is going to be a perfect fit for you either at the end of this year or leading into 2021. So I guess what we might start off with is a bit from you, Caleb. Tell us a bit about Aspen during the summer. How did it go this past summer, and then what are you looking forward to for this winter?
Yeah, I think so. I'm in Aspen right now, and I'm just going to do some creative camera work. So my office is at one of our ski resorts. I'm just going to show you what's going on outside. This is the view with the autumn color leaves. And we're seeing kind of the end of autumn. People are leaf peeping. And it's been really busy this summer. It's been interesting. You can't really talk about anything this year without talking about COVID. And I know we're going to get into more detail about what that means. But surprisingly enough, and maybe not so unsurprising, is that the town, valley, the resort itself have had quite a busy summer. I think a lot of people are looking to get out of cities, get into the open air and space, and kind of like get out of lockdown, as it were. For those on the call that haven't already picked it up, I'm Australian originally, but I live in the States, and I keep a close eye on what's happening in the UK and Australia and the associated lockdowns. It's much more free here as far as lockdowns are concerned. And so people have been able to travel into the resort from various cities, and that's kept us quite busy. There is obviously a whole bunch of stuff that goes along with that. You know, we are observing a whole bunch of the new normal, but we're expecting this winter to be the same as well. We're expecting that we are going to be busy because people want to get out in nature and get out of lockdown and still have holidays and vacations in a safe environment. And, you know, I think similar to golf's been kind of that big winner out of the COVID stuff. And skiing is probably going to be the other big winner in that it is a naturally distant sport. The only choke point being chairlifts, right? Yep. So Aspen's famous for having no lines. And so we're kind of expecting us to have a really successful year regardless of what's going on.
Great. Are you seeing that you're having to do a lot of changes and more staffing because of COVID and stretching out, making more stuff available?
Yeah, so the biggest changes we have, and I think we can put these resources up online, we have a variety of different information on aspensnowmass.com about what those changes actually are. And so the biggest thing when we think about, we just mentioned choke points and that sort of stuff, is, hey, we don't load unknown parties into gondolas and chairlifts. And that's what everyone kind of starts to think about straight away. A lot of that stuff's up on aspensnowmass.com. We have like COVID protocols page. We have an employee safety page. We have employee FAQs. We kind of go into details specifically about what's changed. But for the biggest thing and why people want to come do a working holiday or work at Aspen Skiing Company is because they want to experience the great outdoors. And I think while you're outside it, doing what you moved here to do, you won't actually notice that much difference. And I think that the question is more like, what have we been surprised that hasn't changed? And that's what's not changed, is we are here in nature. I'm in an office, obviously, but for the most part, our jobs that people take in summer and winter are outside, are naturally socially distanced. And those that aren't, we've taken the appropriate precautions.
Yeah, definitely. Now, and certainly, obviously, you know, being a fellow Aussie, you're probably following how well we're handling the COVID down here in Australia. And it's been all over the news that it's, you know, maybe not being handled the best across in the US. So I know there's probably some safety concerns there. You know, and I know that you said you got the website up, but I'm assuming a lot of tracing, a lot of temperature checks and so forth for guests that are coming to the resort, mask wearing, those type of things. Obviously during the winter when it's freezing, you probably got your, you know, your masks up anyway because it's so cold. But yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. You know, America. I mean, obviously, if you're looking to come over here on essentially like a cultural exchange, working holiday, you know, whatever it may be, you are looking to experience American culture, and I think it's important. You know, obviously, America as a place. It's not like you're not aware of like how Americans operate, and I think they take their personal liberty fairly seriously. But also, it's not really a centralized government. So if you're looking for like protocols and information, it actually boils down to the county. So the local county here in Aspen Snowmass, which is called Pitkin County, is actually the determining factor of what happens here in Aspen. It's actually got nothing to do with the federal government. So basically, when you go into towns, whether it's New York City, whether you fly into LA, whatever it may be, it's that local government that dictates what happens there in those spots. So for us at Aspen, we have some resources about what Pitkin County requires, which is what people have to adhere to when they come here. And those are the rules that we abide by. So when people talk about America, they generally talk about what's Trump doing.
Yeah.
And that's actually not the case about what's happening in Aspen. And Aspen is actually so far removed from basically the rest of America that's because we're socially isolated in the middle of the Rocky Mountains. It's very hard to get here. It's a certain type of person that comes here. And they generally lead to be rule followers, and those rules are set by Pitkin County. Yeah. So we do have enforced masks. We do have enforced socially distance. We have capacity restrictions on our restaurants. We've changed the way that we serve food. You know, all those things to adhere to those local county ordinances, but it's the local county that we're paying attention to opposed to anything else.
Right, perfect. Yeah, no, that sounds great. And look, certainly, you know, we know at the moment there's flights that are leaving out of Australia. So, you know, United, American, Delta, not daily, but they're still coming in and out, and New Zealand as well. So there's a few different airlines that are still traveling. The CCUSA insurance that everyone goes on, whether it be for the Working Holiday USA program for those Aussies and Kiwis, or I think we've got some folks joining us from the UK, and they might be coming over on the intern or the training visa. Our insurance covers COVID-19, which is a great thing to make sure that everyone is safe and well. And as CCUSA is your visa sponsor, we actually, you know, we're there to support you beforehand, and also along with Aspen while you're in the US and working at your resort. So, you know, we had a number of people that actually left and went over and did the summer camp program and worked in the US this past summer, June, July, and August, very safely and securely. Out of Australia, you've got to apply for an exemption to travel. And we are seeing that those are being approved quite easily. There is some steps to go through, but we've had success with everyone who's applied for one has been granted those. The latest is that they're saying because you're going for longer than 3 months, they're pretty much rolling out almost instant approvals. Obviously, there's a number of other elements that go into that, jobs, visas, sponsorship, and those type of things that go along with it. So we are seeing that is working very well and enabling us to do that. So it's sort of taking out a number of those, I guess, concerns that I know some people have in terms of, well, can I actually get on a flight? Am I allowed to leave Australia? Can I do those type of things? So I know New Zealand's not as strict in that respect. I know Air New Zealand is flying out. We did have some Kiwis that did go over and work this past summer as well. And I know that we've had even some of the people on the 12-month working holiday visa have also now left in the last month or two, and they're traveling over and working in the US right now. So it's great. So kind of moving on, sort of touched a little bit on COVID and that. Tell me a bit about the sort of like maybe the jobs that you've got available and the time frame that you're looking at for this coming winter and what dates you're looking at. And then I know that we also have some people here that maybe sort of more pushing towards, well, I want to start maybe next summer, maybe do summer, take a break and then roll into winter, those type of options. So let's know about those kind of.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think we tailor the program, especially with the Australian year-long visa and any kind of year-long visa that allows you to work at various different things to the person. So depending on what experience you've had before, there's a variety of different jobs. There's no real different. I think it's a little bit maybe different than the summer camp visa because it's a particular visa. Ours is not tied to a particular type of employment. So really the answer to that, Snowy, is, hey, look, you can work any job at Aspen. So I think it depends on like what experience you come. As far as start dates go, they're all pretty much the same. Like we expect folks on visas to be here for the winter season about December 1st, right? And so like around that time, but we don't have hard and fast dates because it depends on what your situation is. Your uni, when you can get flights, when your lease starts, like all these different things will work with a certain person. But typically our resorts open around Thanksgiving, which is the third or last Thursday in November. I never, Thursday in November towards the end. And basically we operate around that holiday season, the US holiday season. So when that's when our resort opens. That's when we have snow. We make snow if we don't have snow at that time. But by the time start of December rolls around, we have our new hires start, we get them into new hire training, we get them up to speed and comfortable before the Christmas and the kind of New Year period for the US holidays when we have a lot of business. So as far as positions are concerned, the typical positions that I see folks who want to kind of get the best of both worlds, it depends if you're a fanatical skier or not. So if you've skied before and you're comfortable with skiing, you're used to cold weather, that will determine the jobs. Those jobs where people really want to be outside all day and ski to work, they can range from a restaurant on the top of the mountain, inside the restaurant, at the lift, potentially like running our mountain coaster, like all these different things. And that's dependent on whether you want to ski or not. I think a job that's been really popular that we end up placing a lot of Aussies in is product sales and service, kind of like a ticket job. Because you actually sit for the most time inside, you get to ski as well. So you kind of have in the middle of the day where you can take ski breaks, or you're actually up on the mountain helping guests kind of go through our access gates and solve past problems on the mountains at kind of like a ticket counter on the mountain. So that one's really popular with folks because, you know, you don't have to be outside all the time. You kind of get that element of it as well.
Yep, perfect. And then during the summer, or like, well, actually, sorry, jumping back, winter. I know that is the X Games still going ahead this year, or is that to be determined?
This is not official. So like everything's on the down low for this audience only. Yeah. X Games is a big highlight of Aspen, right? X Games is like the kind of like cream on the crop of the Aspen experience. This year, it is still planned to go ahead. It is a made-for-TV experience. So most likely, you will not be able to go to X Games as a guest.
Yep.
But as an employee of Aspen Skiing Company, you actually get to work X Games. So you'll be there. Last year, I was driving around a snowmobile with pro athletes on my back up the side of the half pipe. That's not because I've been here for however many years and I can do that. Anyone could do that. Do you know what I mean? So you can only do it if you're an Aspen Skiing Company employee. So what I would say is if it does go ahead, there's definitely not going to be crowds, but you still might be able to attend as an Aspen Skiing Company employee and do some cool stuff.
Yeah. Now, and then during the summer, you still run, obviously a lot of hiking, downhill mountain biking. So there's a lot of, I'm assuming, positions that are similar, sort of more direction and advising guests as well for the summer. Is that right?
Yeah, so in summer, primarily our business is centered around, because we have 4 different mountains here, Aspen, Aspen Highlands, Buttermilk and Snowmass. Our business is centered around Aspen and Snowmass. Snowmass has a very large kind of on-mountain adventure center, zip lines, rope courses, you know, huge downhill mountain biking scene. We run lifts. We have like people that man the coast or all that sort of stuff. So we do have summer opportunities for folks. We also own and operate 2 hotel brands. So we kind of run those hotels during the summer as well. Matter of fact, they're kind of busier in summer than they are in winter sometimes, because Aspen in summer's an amazing place to be. And so a lot of our guests are here to hike, to bike, to raft, to fish. A lot of people do like stand-up paddleboarding in and around town. Aspen has an amazing culinary scene. So it's not like necessarily just the on-mountain stuff that happens here in the summer, but as a company, that's primarily where we'll hire people, is on-mountain.
Okay, perfect. Two other questions. I guess the first one is, have you set a policy yet in terms of, are you going to have staff come in? Is there any self-quarantining when they come in? Is there sort of something that Aspen's got set at the moment or planning on doing? And then I guess, obviously just hints and advice on sort of like as an Aussie, heading over and working in the US, how different is it to interviewing with Americans for positions? So I guess quarantine and then interviewing him.
Yeah, the quarantine's a good question. I think we return back to like, we all know Americans believe in their individual liberty. So as a whole, Americans are very hard to group together and get them to do anything. So, and you gotta kind of laugh at some of this stuff, but it is the reality is that you can't mandatory test people in America. They just won't do it. They won't comply and all that sort of stuff. So it's a very big place with, I don't know, 250 million people in it. There's a whole bunch of different beliefs and all that sort of stuff. Any kind of mandatory type things around testing, self-isolation, very hard to police. It's very different than the UK and Australia. And so as such, we can't be kind of like trying to boil the ocean in Aspen. Aspen is a big believer that COVID is real and science is the answer. And, it's not necessarily testing isn't the silver bullet, but it's part of the solution. Isolating and being responsible and not having gatherings of like 10 people in your employee housing unit. We certainly believe in that stuff. But we are trying to figure out with the local county, schools, and major employers what we can do as a group, right? So that's still stuff that's yet to be finalized, but it's basically, we have 5 steps to containment. They're all published on the aspensnowmass.com/jobs/employee safety. Everything that we're requiring people to do are on those sites, and that's in line with what other employers are doing here. We do suggest that we're looking at providing a test or asking people to provide evidence of a test within a certain period of time in order to move into our employee housing. But we have yet to agree on a contract with the local hospital here in town to supply those tests. And those tests are changing monthly. So like, it's kind of one of those things where we have a plan around employee housing first, because basically everyone's going to move into employee housing, and that's a potential problem. Actually, what we've found this summer, we've had 0 community transmission through our employment. Now, we've certainly had cases in which people have been contact traced. So they have flatmate, roommate, whatever you want to call it, has tested, and they've had to isolate even though they've tested negative, and that's affected operations. We've had no employee get sick from work or from guests at work. And so with our procedures, we will have a similar situation this winter. It's going to be a little bit busier, and therefore we're going to be a little bit stricter about our policies because we're going to have more employees and potentially more guests.
Yeah, gotcha. Cool. Now, some hints, I guess, on advice for interviewing and what skills do you see that, staff that have come and worked for Aspen that take away? Obviously, Aspen is a, global, big employer. Everyone knows Aspen. What skills, what can people look for on how to interview, but then what are they going to take away from Aspen and working there?
So I think for folks from England or Australia, it's quite easy to like assimilate to the culture and the way of interviewing here. I think a lot of folks from England and Australia in particular have held jobs since high school. And I think, you know, that is a big part of what we're looking for is like, hey, have you been responsible for something? You know, I think if you've worked in customer service, if you've been on a computer, like a point of sale system, that's huge, right? If you're computer savvy, which I think a lot, you know, it's kind of taken for granted a lot these days. And I think an Australian and English folks might roll their eyes at that, but not everyone has the same opportunities as Australian and English people in the realms of technology and access to employment. So that's actually a really big advantage when you come here as an Australian or an English person, is you've done customer service jobs. You've been responsible for counting cash, taking credit cards, probably in a previous like role that you've had. And those are the things that really actually help you get jobs here. Because the jobs that the Australians and the English folks really exceed at are the high pressure jobs where you're dealing with customers, you're talking about products, you're trying to upsell, and you're having to use computers in a point of sale system. That's really like where I've seen people excel if they have any kind of previous experience in customer service or cash handling, or just being able to talk to someone while multitasking. That's kind of like where the interviews mainly center around.
Perfect, cool. And when we say Australia and England, we do also include New Zealand as well. So
New Zealand as well.
Sorry. Sorry, all those countries, yeah. All good. And what sort of skill sets do you see people taking away after working a season or a year at Aspen? You know, what do they get, and you know, where sort of what, I guess, career or path does it help lead to, do you think?
So, I mean, I think the biggest thing you walk away from Aspen that you might not walk away from, like, of course you can go work in a local ski resort. I mean, New Zealand has them, Australia has them, the UK has them, if you want to go up to Scotland, right? You can go to those resorts, but when you walk away from Aspen, you're probably going to tell a story about like, oh, I sold, I mean, for example, 2 years ago, I was helping bus tables and I was picking up Elton John's salad plate. You know, I always go back to that story because it's ridiculous. Like, yeah, that's such a random story that I was like, oh, Sarah, you done with this? You know, it was Elton John. So like, those are the sort of experiences that you can't really get anywhere else. Aspen has that element of like celebrity to it. It's real. And I think you will come across people that you were just like, whoa, like that person is really, really famous, and that was just such a random encounter. That happens all the time. I think being able to talk and deal with people from all over the world is another big piece. I mean, you know, travel restrictions don't really apply to the billionaires from around the world, right? The private jets, they still get to Aspen, they still get to quarantine in their kind of second homes here. That is another set. You will be exposed to people that you will not be exposed to anywhere else. And it's just the nature of our clientele. You'll also kind of get that true local ski bum vibe that doesn't really exist in a lot of corporate ski areas anymore. That's a big piece of like friends that you'll work with that just come from like, whether it's America, whether they're fellow Australians, New Zealanders, English folks, you'll kind of return with like this second university experience where you're like, oh, that was really like character building, where you've just met this whole new friendship group. That's kind of intangible stuff. The biggest thing is, hey, you're going to work in a complex environment that is a premium destination, holiday destination. You're dealing with products that cost a lot of money, that have kind of high pressure to them. So you're going to get a lot of customer experience out of this, where you're not selling, you know, a Snickers bar. You're selling a private lesson for $1,000 for this guy's 6 kids. So it's $6,000 a transaction, and he's making that decision based on what you tell them, right? So like, you know, you're selling it. It's like, well, this is really going to help your kids learn and all this sort of stuff. And oh, you should ski over here. that's the sort of stuff that you're going to walk away with. Potentially not many other jobs in a seasonal environment will get you.
Perfect. All right, perfect. All right, well, we're running almost out of time here, Caleb, and certainly what we're going to do is, Holly's here. She's going to actually put in the Zoom chat, and she's going to, sorry, something just popped up. We're going to pop in there more. If you've got specific questions and answers, we'll turn on this on your screens and your chats. And we'll be able to have one-on-ones, or sort of Caleb and I will be on a separate Q&A Zoom chat after this. So Holly's going to pop that into the chat there. She's just done that. So if you'd like to do that, we'll be in that once Zoom sort of kicks us out here. But a couple of things that I guess we just wanted to clarify in terms of the process and from our end. Obviously, for those from Australia and New Zealand, the Working Holiday USA visa, so it's a 12-month working holiday visa, unfortunately only eligible for those two countries because of a memorandum of understanding between Australia, New Zealand and the United States. So you need to be a full-time student, have completed at least 1 year of full-time study, and then on top of that, you could have graduated. So if you just graduated in December last year, you can still arrive in the US by December this year and be eligible then to start your visa, and it's valid for 12 months. And certainly you can start a winter season with Aspen, then go on and travel and pick up another job, or potentially if you love Aspen, you can come back for the summer and sort of look at different options there. I know that we've got some UK participants on here. So you're looking at more the practical training or the intern visas. So once again, a lot of those have very specific requirements in terms of your student status or your graduating status there. So, so make sure from the UK you're chatting with, I believe most of you chatted to Vittorio there and talking about those options. Dylan in New Zealand can help you with the working holiday. We also have the Work Experience USA visa. It was on hold for a little bit, but as of last week, that has now been released again. So therefore the Work Experience visa is back open, and that more is sort of to run between our summer months. So that would be starting, you know, in December, running through until March. So going for just over sort of like a 3 to 4 month time period in that respect. So that's a great opportunity there with those visas. Obviously very simple to apply and go through the application process. Literally go to ccusa.com.au or .co.nz or .co.uk. Click on the big apply button and then just start your online application there. So that's really easy. The other thing that we do recommend is that put your resume together and send it to your CCUSA specific country office. And then what we'll do is we'll pass those directly on to Caleb. Caleb will have a look at it and make sure, well, we'll check to make sure that you're valid for one of the visas to start with. And then we'll send it to Caleb. He's going to have a look into it. And then he's going to reach out and have a chat to you and set up an interview. And then he'll come back to us and say, yeah, look, yep, this person I've offered a job. Then you can move forward, jump on, finish your application, pay the program fees and that are due for the program, and go through that process. And then we can start the whole element in terms of getting your visa down here. You're going into the consulates for your visa appointments and getting you over in time to work. So certainly it is a doable thing. I know currently with COVID, there's a lot of miscommunication or misinformation out there and a lot of worry and concern, and we do understand that. But for those that do want to travel this year, that is still possible for you to go from Australia and New Zealand. And for the intern and practical training, it'll be heavily based on the requirements of Aspen and when they're looking at having those elements and those positions open up if you meet the requirements for those with them. In terms of summer next year, once again, the work experience program's available for those out of the UK, but unfortunately, we're in the middle of winter, so it's not for Aussies and Kiwis. So it kind of gets a little confusing there, but just make sure you reach out and have a chat to us in regards to what questions that you might have about the visa, about the application process. How do I get out of Australia? You know, are there flights? What do I do? And those type of things. And we're happy to talk to you and give you that background information and that advice. And once again, you know, we've had some very successful folks that went over, worked this past summer in the US. Our winter, very safe, very secure, and unlike what you're probably seeing in the media, a lot of employers are doing a great job in terms of containing, making their employers safe, their workplace safe in the US. So very similar to what Australia and New Zealand are doing, and also I believe out of the UK. So it is a great program. It is available for you to go there, and we're happy to have a chat too about that one. Anything else you want to add in there, Caleb, or any other thoughts or comments about thoughts with coming to Aspen, and give everyone a plug on why they should come work for you?
I mean, the biggest thing is like, look, this is not a big scary process. I'm an expat. I live in Aspen, and last year I think we saw it with some CCUSA folks. The interview is like me just having a chat, get to know you. You can ask me questions like, what's the deal with XYZ? And I answer them because I did it myself, and it's not this big scary, like, oh, this is like a job interview. It's more like, hey, this is designed to be a cultural exchange. It's designed to add fun to your life, to our lives. We have like having people from different countries work here. People really appreciate that. So it's a really easy process. And that's kind of all I would say. I mean, Aspen, it's kind of hard to quantify. I think like a lot of people, when they think of Aspen, they think of Dumb and Dumber and those movies and those sorts of things. But it is like one of those places that it's the natural beauty. Like you don't really understand till you get here. Kind of like, whoa, we're in the mountains and I feel like I'm in New York, like I go downtown Aspen and it's cosmopolitan, but it's a really small town. And then I go up the chairlift and it feels like in the middle of nowhere. So it kind of has like a really cool vibe and it has lots to offer.
Yeah, and I know you guys are great. You look after, you help with employee housing, give really good advice on how to get all the way up to Aspen, and obviously there's events, plenty of events for cultural events and time off and so forth that go on during your time there. So I know that Aspen does a great job in organizing little events and catch-ups, and so whether you're doing it with a group of friends or just going solo, you're not going to sort of feel too left out. You can always go and if you need a jar of Vegemite, I'm sure you can probably pop in and see Caleb.
Yeah. I was in Australia in March and I brought a suitcase back, and you can get Vegemite actually in America, but I did bring back, I brought a whole bag of shapes back, mainly barbecue. That's something I can't live without. All
right. So therefore, there you go. So to get on Caleb's good side, when you turn up, bring some shapes. Yeah, there you go. All right. Hey, look, we're about to run out of time here, but we are going to flip over to the Q&A session. We'll turn on everyone's, for those who would like to join us, we can turn on your videos, and then when you're ready, just raise your hand and say, I've got a question, and we'll do that. Happy to sit online, and chat and answer any questions that you might have. But look, I just want to thank you, Caleb, personally. Thank you so much for rejoining us. I know you were out here in February before, went a little nutty for 2020. But look, it's great. I know all of our participants that have worked at Aspen have had just the most amazing experience, the most amazing time, and really used their skills and experiences to take them a lot further in their careers. So thank you so much for the years that you put in with CCUSA for that. Everyone that's joined us online, I just want to personally also thank you for your time. We're here, whether it be for 2020, 2021, or 2022, whenever it suits you and you're ready to get out there and start seeing the world, we're here to help you as well. So
yeah, Aspen's not going anywhere, and I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people are looking at these type of programs, is that maybe if you live in Victoria, in Australia, you may be wanting to get a bit of freedom in your life, and what better place to do it than America?
Exactly. Awesome.